Hello everyone out there, and thanks again for joining us in. Today we're going to be doing this little mountain scene with a few putting in the sky and a little sea scene and a few rocks here and there, and we'll be doing it over 6 weeks. Now this is probably going to take you maybe an hour and a half to do it. I know the video is only 30 minutes, but take your time, look at the mountains that you want to put in, but this is the little mountain scene, and I'll be showing you little tricks of doing that as we go along the way. So get out the brushes, get out the paints, and get painting. Thank you. So off and running we go. I put out one more little colour while I was just sitting there. I put out a little bit of yellow ochre, which is a great colour for you'll see me using a lot of it. The other colours that I'll be using on this little first project is, of course, the three yellow or blue and a little bit of yellow and a little bit of red. And I'm not going to name that because the simple reason is every packet comes with its own reds and its own different colours, yellow, red and blue. They're the primary colours. We make all the secondary colours from that. That's where we have the fun mixing and making the little happy accidents that come along. So I have a little just here, a little a palette, as it's just a ham palette or a cheese, just for handiness, so I can drop back in and put my lid down, and I'll show you that as we go on. When you're starting out painting, the first thing you do, and we're using acrylics today, so it's a water-based colour, so you're going to be clipping in, and I have 2 buckets of water, you'll notice, 2 little buckets. One is the dirty bucket and one is the clean. So when I'm cleaning the brush, what I normally do is check it then, and if I want to check it in the clean water, so for watercolours or for oils, or if you're doing anything along the way and you want to keep your paintings nice and clean, don't be scared of water. Change it every so often too. This is your main, you get so used to washing your brushes that the hand will go over and dip in. So I'm just starting off with a little bit of clean water, and we'll start off our first little sunset. So if you're just a beginner, all you have to do is take some water on your brush, and these brushes were bought in Little Snaldies. I have other brushes there. It's a 1/2 inch and they're nylon brushes, which means you can use them for oils, watercolours or acrylics. So it means you don't have to buy too many brushes. So without delay, we'll just put on a happy floating little sky. This is just to make it easier for the paint to run. Now some painters wouldn't do this, so it's not all by law. The painting is something that everyone will come up with their techniques and different techniques, but what you want to do is just be open to all techniques, and that'll help you along your little journey of art. So just down to about the rising line. I don't make a straight rising line because there's no such thing as a straight rising line. What there is, if you have a little there, go straight across there and that'll fade in. Before that dries, I'm taking some of the more little bit of blue that I dipped into, and this is a lovely blue, ultramarine blue, goes to the red side of the blues. So I normally test it up here on the brush just to get a feel for your brush. There's it up there, and when we start just at the top, just give it a nice soft stroke, and don't make it too soft. Make it that the sky is moving along. Look at your skies, that's the main thing. Even if you miss little bits along there, that's okay. You're doing nothing wrong. You're having a little fun moving along with it. And ultramarine is a beautiful blue. Now this acts as 2 things too. It acts as a sealer. Some people seal their boards and seal their canvas. What I normally do is keep a little bit of acrylic for sealing, and you can do this. You can use it as a sealer, and then you can paint over, because acrylic works in layers and it's great. And you can see I'm just, because I have a little bit of blue in the bucket, I'm using that to water that down till just down to our little part down here to the horizon. And people will ask you, why do you go light to the horizon? Well, to the horizon means that all landscape works in a V shape. So the further away the little V goes, see that you're going into a V, that's where it gets lighter, and up here a little bit darker. So we're just going to cover that in. And another one great thing about acrylics is too, if you make that little happy accident, you can always go over it again, but we're not going to make any accidents along the way. We're going to do it as good and as have a little bit of fun doing it and enjoy it. See how I'm layering that, right? And I might go back in that sky and then put in a few little clouds floating along. As I say, we have enough clouds in our life at the minute without sticking clouds into our paintings. But if you're one of those people that like to put in a few little clouds, that's okay. So we're going to go on down with that there, down like that. Now this will have to dry a little bit, and some people use a hair dryer. But what I normally do is I normally make a little cloud colour just while I'm sitting there. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of brown, and just not to confuse people today on mixing, I can make this brown by adding two colours, but I'm just going to use a little bit of burnt umber to show you a little trick. So a little bit of burnt umber, and these are earthy tones, all earthy tones. Browns and yellow ochres are all to do with the earth, come from the earth, they belong to the earth, and they're great for doing a little. So I'm just going to make a little grey, and how I do that is just by making it a little bit of brown and a little bit of blue, and testing it up here again, and then taking what you wouldn't know, just a little bit of white. And remember I said I wouldn't put in a little cloud? I'm from Donegal, there are a few clouds in here in this one, so we're going to put a little in as we wait for it to dry. Now we can blend these with a blending brush, or you just take your finger and nice and softly blend in your clouds. See how they're rolling along there? You don't have to make them too dark, a bit of more white maybe. And we just put in what you wouldn't see, of a little bit of a white cloud rolling along there. Again with acrylics, it's so forgiving. You can put in a whole load of clouds, or just one or two big floaters coming across your painting. And again, if you don't want to put these in, you're maybe just starting paint, don't put them in. Leave them till you get more bolder at it, and that will come, you'll get more into it. You'll want to be putting in your little clouds. So that's just to show you there's a little roller going along there. The next little thing that we're going to put into this painting is a little mountain range, yeah. Now the mountain range can range from any mountains around your place, but the best way to start off when you're painting is what a mountain looks like. And believe it or not, a mountain range looks like, see, like a W. So if you think of a W when you're putting in your little mountain range, you'll have no problems with it. So along here I'm taking the bravery test, and I'm first putting in my softest wee far away mountain. I'm going to soften that down. And how would I soften that down? Just by taking what you wouldn't know of a little bit of white and soften it down. Make it nice soft. And the minute I keep that nice and soft, that mountain moves away to the distance, like that there. It's great, as I say, you might not be fit a bit out the bins, but you can move mountains with your brush. It's just amazing what you can do with these brushes. Now I'm going to soften it down here, just a little bit softer. I have my little bit of paper here, tea towel, which is handy, they're good and strong. Some people use toilet rolls, but they go too soft. You're better to have a good bit of just tea towel, and don't throw them away, because you can use these over and over if you let them dry, because acrylic dries quick and you can use it. And of course we're all into preserving the planet. So there's our little soft mountain, and this will do it a little bit of justice when you soften it and like that. Again now into some of the ultramarine blue. Sometimes ultramarine comes like called French blue too, and that's because it runs to the red side, and I will explain that maybe as we go on. So our next big bravery test is where's our next big mountain. It's coming down, and all of a sudden we move our next mountain back just like that. See how easy that was done? We've just moved her back into the distance. Now, excuse me, that is as simple a little way of drawing mountains as I've ever seen. Just when people say the word mountain, and how do I get a mountain into my little paper? Well, sometimes if you take, and it's just a little square, and you look at it and you look at your mountain and you say, well, maybe I should put it there. And if you're looking at it, and that breaks down things a little bit. Art is all about little tricks. It's not about painting. You have loads and loads of tricks, and as we go on our journey of art, I'll explain some of them to you. And I know you won't remember them, but if you're watching the video, which is very handy, you'll remember them. You might be looking out the window and looking at the mountains while I'm saying this and saying, how did Colm put that mountain? And now look, I missed that. But the great thing about the little the video is you can reverse back and just capture that little second, which is great. And I mean, if Leonardo da Vinci and Monet and all them boys had that they could record themselves painting, there wouldn't be as many people trying to figure out today how did they do these movements. And in a lot of the work, especially Monet, a lot of his work is movement, and that's very important. And you'll notice how I hold my brush further up. Don't go in like this and try to draw a mountain. Go like this, relax your shoulders and just soften it in. And after a while you'll get very brave doing that, and you'll be fit to sit back and look at your painting. So you can see that we have changed our little M into two little mountains. The next thing on our little journey on this first little video is how do we put in the faraway landscape along the horizon. Some people, all that I normally do is take a little bit of yellow ochre, which is a beautiful colour, and if you get to know it, it'll really add dividends to your little workload as you go along. Yellow ochre, and the minute I put it on top of the blue, it turns to a kind of a green, but it's its own green. A little bit of it'll touch and it'll become green, and a little bit of it'll go another colour, and it all adds up that it's like the land affecting it far away. And we'll take it down onto the shoreline. Again, remember, we can go back and we can touch up any little thing with these acrylics. There are so many different acrylics, and if you're in a little class and you haven't got the ones that I'm using, well, use the ones you have, and then what you do is you upgrade them as you go along and make your little scene. But the main factor is learning what is dark, what is light, how do we put our little mountains in, and it doesn't matter if it's oil paints or if it's watercolours, and you just wash your brushes. If you feel like you want to check them, just check them in your lighter colours, in your clean bucket. And that's the bucket to keep clean. This is the old washing bucket here for washing them. You don't have buckets that size, you can have a smaller bucket for, usually it's handy to let the brush sit in it, see. So in a smaller bucket the brush might fall, and that would not be great, because if acrylics gets into anything, that little bit harder. So I'm just darkening it down with the foreground where it comes down onto the lake there, the little lake scene. And as I say, today we were going to work on a little beach scene, so there might be little things happening along the way there. So we just tap that down, like that. Little far away things. We're not wild worried what's happening out there, because there could be anything happening out there. There could be a forestry out there, there could be trees, there could be houses, there could be anything that's in the distance. So long as we have our little mountain in, and make sure that we have it nice and soft, and we run with the contours of the mountain, like the mountains coming down like that. If we put in a flat mountain, it doesn't look right, and sometimes we might make a video of little mistakes that you see, and it'll open up your eyes to that. Now I'm just going up to the sky again, and I'm just going to put a little bit of more ultramarine blue, and this will all add dividends to your painting when it's finished. The reason for this throws everything away again, way back, this darkening, and see, to show you how layering happens. This is a layer over a layer, and then it starts to get fadey when you start to do that. It's just little tricks. They're nothing really, as I say, as long as you know, and as I say, if you know the trick, you're in with it and you're away. So down here on this second part of the little landscape, we're going to put maybe a beach scene, and you're going to now probably laugh at this here when you see me taking a little bit of yellow. Yep, a little bit of yellow, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on an undertone. Now you see he's definitely gone crazy now when he's putting in a beach scene with yellow. Well, if you look at the sea, it's different to a lake. There are lots of greens coming in on it, and this is a little trick to show you how to do that. And we're going to run around up to the shore, and once this dries a little bit and we put a little bit of, and I'll not say it, we do it, a little another tone on top, and you'll see what happens. Colours actually start to mix when you start to paint, and don't be afraid of them. This is where your bravery test comes in. So I'm just taking a little bit of the blue now, ultramarine, the same blue as I have up here, and what I'm going to do is run it, and look at that lovely kind of a green that's happening along there. It looks like more like the sea splashing and crashing there, and we're going to have that coming in just to the beds here, along here, like that. Keeping straight lines and keeping it nice and soft and layering, and we can darken that as now. So the next days are out and about, especially the sea. Look at the greens. Lakes are more a reflection of the sky. The sea is more, because there are greens growing under it, and there's fungus, and there's all different types of things happening in the sea that doesn't happen possibly in lakes. So we're going to put that in like that there. little bit to wash the brush, and you'll get very good at washing brushes because it just gets into your brain like that, you know, the sea is going to change and everything's going to change. I'm going to take a little bit of yellow ochre, right, and a little bit of red through the yellow ochre, and what I'm going to do up here is I'm going to make a sandy colour. Yep, clean the brush a little bit, and just a little bit more yellow colour, or yellow ochre, and I'm going to lighten it really down, and what we're going to do is just put in a little beach. Yep, just coming up to where the waves would be coming into it. This will all change anyway, and the beach is going to... Once you get painting a while, you'll see all these things happening. You'll be saying, oh, I can see a beach there, I can see a lot of stuff, I can see sea wreck, you can see all the colours. It just opens up your eyes to nature. And I have so many people that say to me, oh gosh, Colm, we were driving along and we seen your clouds. They're not my clouds, they're your clouds once you see them. But it's just to see them. They'll say, I was looking at a tree outside the house for years and I never seen it till I went to the class and you showed us how to draw a tree. Well, that happened, and it's a very simple little story about a man who lived beside a very famous artist that I knew, Elise Lynch. She lectured in Dublin, and he was retired, and he told Elise he hadn't much to do. He had everything in the house painted for the wife. He had all the gates and the house painted, and he was she was out having her coffee mornings and he was having nothing. So she says, why do you not come to the art class? But he says, I can't paint. And she says, come to the art class and you'll meet some people and have. So what did they do? She was drawing a tree that night and she showed them how to draw a little tree. He enjoyed the class only to go home and look out the window of his own house and see a tree. He rang her next day. He says, you know, I have a tree growing for nearly 30 years in front of the house and I didn't see it till I went to your class. So that's how art opens up to people. It opens up windows into the landscape and into what we can see. And you're probably saying, oh gosh, look at that there now, isn't that very green looking? Well, all you have to do is to make that a little bit darker. So we're going to add maybe a few little waves to it, and waves are very easy to put in if you know the little tip. All you have to do is keep them straight. Yep, keep them straight coming up here. Now the sky will always reflect a little bit of shadow on our little waves, so we'll be watching out for that, and I know you saw. Now I left a little slimmer of white along there. That will be, I'll put a little bit of white in later in that there, and that'll be as it slaps up against that part of the painting. So I'm just going to darken this down, and I'm taking some more red and a little bit of yellow ochre again, and I'm making our beach tones just darker. See how I darken them with a little bit of red? Like that. See now, he's definitely gone. I have never seen red, but actually if I add a little bit more to the red, see I'm mixing on the pattern now, and I'm just taking it on up here, and this is our waves going to be coming in here in a little second. So you say that, well, I'm going to make a little colour for you that'll change all that. So I'm taking a little bit of our ultramarine blue, yep, and a little bit of yellow towards our blue, and then I'm going back into a little bit of red, and see what happens. I have a lovely chocolatey brown, see, just like that, and that's by using red and green if you haven't got it, if you want to make it, and it darkens down. Now I'm going to show you a little trick in a second too. I have a little bank card here. Yeah, I'm going to take out a lot of money with this, and I'm going to show you how to put in a few rocks. So normally when I'm putting in a few rocks, I let the board hold it a little bit and scrape, and you start to see a whole lot of scraggly rocks, just scraping them out. See now how it didn't matter what colour we put there, we have a whole lot of them big rocks to see, and you thought it was a little bit of sea wreck that we were putting in, but it wasn't. It was a whole cascade of rocks. The same over here. I'm going to just put in an undertone first before I do this, and when I say an undertone, I'm just going to paint this all with them three colours that I had there, yellow, ochre and a little bit of red, because this is going to be the darkest part of my painting there. I'm going to just lighten that down a little bit. And if I want to lighten it down, just a little bit of water, or in a minute I'll be using white to lighten down some of these colours. But this is just undertones so that you get your whole painting kind of covered, and you don't want to be looking at white, because white is a tone that's very hard to work with, and it tricks from what you're really doing. So we have a nice light of beach going down. You can walk down that into your strand. This is a lovely little painting to start off with. So you have your mountain, you have your sky, you have a few clouds, and we'll be going back to do a little bit on them. The next little part, I'm just going to show you how to do a few rocks again here. So instead I'm going to draw out the rocks, right, with a little bit of yellow. This is just an undertone, big rock here. You'll see that doesn't look much like a rock column at the minute. Well, we'll see what happens when we put a few colours. So if you put yellow, a little bit of red on top of each other, straight away keeping them wet, don't let them dry. This technique only works if you keep them wet. And then of course until our beautiful ultramarine blue, which I think makes the loveliest greens. And we have a big dark, see colour that there. So you really don't need to run out and buy a lot of colours. That could be any dark colour you want to make. We have her in there, like that. And there. Now again back to our bank card like that there. And what we'll do is we'll just scrape out a few more. I'll go to this side of the card, the smaller. I've cut two things out of it. In case people don't have the knife. There, big rocks. See the big rocks? And you'll do these a few times and you'll get braver and you'll make more rocks and a lot smaller. See now how we have a whole bay of big rocks growing there. And now there might be actually some shrubbery coming out, weeds growing out for them. So stick them in when you have the card. These are ideal. Now if you had, which of course I have it here, my Bob Ross famous knife that was bought for me as a present, for I am involved in the men's shade group here in Ireland, and I use a wonder knife. This is known as a wonder knife, or a lot of people familiar. But if you don't have one of these, but if you have, happy to have one in your thing, just scrape out your little rocks with it, and you can see them coming out like that. So you can put in a whole bay of rocks, just that simple. That's if you have a wonder knife. And if you haven't, another way you can scrape out rocks, and you'll see me, is the back of your tube. Yep, and everyone will have a tube. If you have paint, you have a tube. So you just put them in, so you can use as many types of things. Art is about using up what you have beside you, and especially if you do outdoor painting, because sure to God you'll go without your Bob Ross knife. Now I'm going to darken in our little strand again a little bit more. See how I'm making it really dark, because the layers is getting really dark now and coming into the shore. Well, if you watch it, that's that big cloud that's floating along the mountains there, that's making that go that colour. So we're going to darken that in a little bit, like that, coming up onto the shore, keeping that dark far away there, like that. Just take it on up to the shore where the nice waves start to happen. Now is the time to do our bravery test. So I'm just taking some white, and what I'm going to do with the white is I'm going to put in the suds and the sap coming right up. So this is your bravery test, like this here. There it comes. It'll be a wee bit grey at the start, because of course it'll be darker, and maybe one or two little waves happening out here, turning over, and of course there'll be splashing going on out there. I don't know what's out there, that's far away, but this is a lovely little way of doing a little beach scene, and without too much trouble. Again, the more times you do this and practice, the more, and it's coming up onto the shore like that, the waves and the sap and the swell, like that. I'm just going to darken down again to over here, and I'm going to just go for them three little colours that we put in a few rocks with. A little bit of yellow, like that, just to go over the rock formation, and a little bit of red. Now this yellow and red is a great colour, because actually you can change this into a grey. You can't go wrong. It's one of the nicest greys that you'll ever make, and we call it a moving grey. And you'll say, oh now, what do you mean a moving grey? Well, a moving grey is a grey that moves, not like a dead grey, and a dead grey would be using black and white. That'd look very dead. So I'll just show you what I mean. Once I put a little bit of white on here, like that, see, you can see under it, the grey is starting to happen with a lot of things. So look at your stones now, just don't look at them, look through the stone. And art is all about looking through it. I'm just putting that on there to show you how that makes a lovely grey. And then I go back to my little card and scrape out some more big rocks and stuff. If you're down at the beach and you're taking some photographs, and I know people are out now taking photographs because of the lockdown, and the group that I have, they have more photographs they'll be painting for the next 20 years. We'll never get them all done because all you got, Colm, I seen a lovely waterfall I wanted to draw, and I have a photograph of the dogs, and I seen the dogs for the first time. We used to go out walking, and I never thought of taking a photograph, and I took a photograph one day of them, and I want to paint them now, and that's how you can pick up all these little tips. So I'm just taking a little bit of the brown, and I'm just darkening in these areas here. This is very important when you're doing your landscape, the dark, light and dark. And how to do that is just take a little bit of blue ultramarine, and blue ultramarine is a transparent colour. And what I mean by transparent, I'll just show you that. You can put it over something like that and you can still see through it. So it's a lovely little way of making a shadow. And art is very important at putting our little shadows into stuff, because that's what takes you into the painting a little bit. So putting a lot of shadows running along here, maybe of the ripples in the water and the ripples in the sand, maybe a few old fence posts, or can be wreck, or can be sticks, can be anything that lies along. Just watch out for it when you're along the shore. And art's all about just looking at what's happening, and once you lighten down the blue, it'll turn to the colours of shadow without trying to put them in, and it's just flaring away. You can blend them a little bit if you want, darken them off here and there, and you have your little sea scene. Now I'm just going back and just brightening the white a little bit. So all I'm doing with this chisel edge brush is just putting more little ripples in the sand. See? So it's running up the sand, ripples there. You could be out surfing there on a day like this, couldn't you, with them ripples running up like that there. And of course there'll be a few coming up like that. Now if you wanted to put a few footprints, say somebody walking down into the, all you have to do is take that, another brush here, and I'm just taking a little bit of blue, a little bit of brown, and maybe somebody's after walking down, and all you're doing is put a little bit of footprints heading into on the sand. Your imagination starts to go away with you, and you end up with a load of different little things that you didn't think you would put into them. Now of course when we're beside the sea, there's one or two little things that we need to put in, and of course that's our little birds, and it's just like this here, little V shape like that, a few seagulls going crazy there over the rock. And if you just take the bravery test and put them over your painting, oh, they're going crazy. So I'll put in 4 the day, but you can put in as many. They're on that big rock there. I'm just going to darken this down a little bit more up here, and soften up the cloud a little bit. These are little things we go back and we check, and maybe when you're in a class and you stop it and you have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and talk to the friends, which would be so nice to get people back in classes, because I do a lot of Zoom classes, and people, and it's very funny. Yesterday I had a character come into the studio. He was in Ardra and he came to see me, and he says, I actually see the other half, you call him, you know. So I just, right, that's a new one for me, because he only seen a part of me from here up when we were doing our Zoom classes, which was great all over the lockdown. So I'm just darkening off little bits, but I'm coming to the end of this little tape and our little sea scene, and you can see, now there's another little thing I can show you. It's just there. See how that's little waves turning? Well, if you take a knife, you can actually turn them waves like that there. Now that's a little one I didn't even think I was going to show. See, it looks like a little wave turning over. You could have a surfer on it, and look at the sea again, and it's nice and dark and movement, and see how the greens are coming out. So I thank everyone for hopefully joining in and painting with us. Hopefully this will turn out alright. So I'm going to put this little frame up on it. So thank you folks for joining our little class, and I hope you all get it now and look at a little beach scene and get painting. And that's the only way you learn, is by practice, practice, practice. So thank you.